What is up, Odds Squad? It's me, Just Bleed MMA, and we got an original concept for you, a show that hopefully we do every week called The Odds Whisperer. Okay, so this show, a little bit of a different concept. We are going to take a first look into this week's card. You know, it's Sunday. We had a card yesterday, Saturday, but you know what? UFC, baby, we don't have an off season. We get it in almost every week. So this show is kind of based around getting that first look, getting a little bit of research done, looking at fighters on paper, looking at stylistic matchups, looking at the resumes of fighters, but also looking at where the odds currently stand and how we expect the odds to move throughout the week leading up to fight night. So I hope that's a good layout. I hope you understand the concept. Let's get to it, boys. We got a lot of fights. We got a lot of research to get done. Very exciting card, man. Much better than the debacle we had last week. We got a real serious card here, boys, and a lot of good spots, I think. Let's get to it, you guys. So, pretty cool poster, man. UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Oleinik. UFC Vegas 6. I think we got a good one. And first fight of the night, we got an interesting matchup here. We got Ali Al-Kaisi Kwasi versus Erwin Rivera. So first things first, let's take a look at these guys on paper, see if we have any sort of a size discrepancy, take a look at the records. We're going to dig in a little bit here before we look at the odds. So both guys, this is going to be the first fight, the debut of Ali. This is going to be the second fight for Erwin Rivera. Ali is 8-3, fighting out of Jordan, 29 years old. Both guys are true bantamweights. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. He's training out a Phuket top team. And then Erwin Rivera, 5'6", so he's a couple inches shorter. We don't have the reach numbers yet on Ali, but 68-inch reach out of Erwin. I don't think we're going to have a big discrepancy here once we do get those numbers from Ali, but I don't know. Some guys do have a variance with the wingspan compared to their height. So Erwin is training out of Black Zillions. Let's take a look at what Ali has done here. Like I said, it is going to be his debut, the Royal Fighter. I think he's going to be the first Jordanian. Yeah, I believe he is the first Jordanian to debut in the UFC. So looking at his record here, you know, he's got a unanimous decision win over a 9-3 guy. We have another unanimous decision win over a 6-2 guy. First round armbar 4-4. Fight that never happened in 2018. We got him going up a win against a 2-1 guy, another 2-1 guy, and then a loss to a 6-5 guy when you go back 3 years. And it looks like he did lose his first couple fights. So this is a guy I'm not really familiar with. I know this is a very short notice deal for this guy. I think he was just signed last week. So he's coming into this fight on a 2-week notice against a pretty game guy in Erwin Rivera, which let's take a look at Erwin. So Erwin is 9-5, not a crazy good record. Does train out of Black Zillions officially, if that's still a thing. I don't know. Black Zillions have kind of broken up, kind of moved around, but he still lists Black Zillions as his official gym. So came in short notice, did lose to Giga Chikadze. I thought he actually had a pretty solid performance there. For as short notice as it was, I want to say that was about a 24 to 48 hour notice to take that fight. And I felt like taking all that into account, pretty good performance out of him. Previous to that, a win over Danny Sabatello at the end of last year, a win over Matt Weige, a 13-5 dude, a win over Lazar Stojadinovic, a 12-6 guy. But, you know, previous to that, we got a few losses. The loss to Adir Terry, 5-2 guy. Looks like he lost due to a leg kick early in round 1. The loss to Kevin Natividad, a 2-0 guy, and then a loss to Jose Ceja, 3-3 guy. But we're getting all the way back to 2016. It's a good rule of thumb that obviously the more recent a fight, the more relevance it's going to have. You know, these young guys really do grow. They get much better as their career progresses. So, you know, looking at what he's recently done in the last couple years, I mean, a fairly solid body of work. You know, he's lost two fights, he's won 3, and the ones that he's won, he's finished the fight. So it's definitely an interesting matchup. I don't think Tapology has odds for us yet, but let's see here if I can dig something up. Okay, so right now, You can get Irwin Rivera. He's sitting at about a -190 to a -200 to Ali, coming back at a +165 range. I got to say, I probably agree with that overall. I've still got tape study to do. And guys, that's one thing I got to point out about this concept we're doing here. This is not all the necessary research. We're kind of just getting into that first stage, taking a look at things on paper before we get into our more in-depth tape study. Because, man, in MMA, guys, I got to tell you, there's one thing you got to do. You've got to watch tape. If you're going to pick winners, if you're going to bet fighters, you've got to watch tape. You're doing yourself a huge disservice if you're not watching tape, at least getting in a few fights per person, and definitely trying to get into those stylistic matchups if they fought similar opponents previously. But we obviously can't watch UFC footage on this channel. We would get struck down with a copyright strike immediately. But yeah, I would agree with that line. I think Irwin Rivera at a -190. This is probably a good spot. I think he's fought the better competition. He's got the UFC jitters out of the way, looking to bounce back. Probably a pretty fair spot. I like the way that fight's lined. So that takes us to our next fight. We've got a pretty good one. Youssef Zalal versus Peter Barrett. So let's take a look at the measurables here. So we have Youssef Zalal, 5'10", going up against Peter Barnett, who's 5'9", not a big height differential. And the reach, we got a 2-inch reach advantage for Youssef. So Youssef Zalal, this will be his third fight in the UFC. Man, he's been really impressive so far. Like when I watched the tape on this guy previous to the UFC, I wasn't overly impressed, but man, this guy is one of these young guys who continues to grow, continues to get better between fights. And you look at, he came into the UFC and just kind of exploded on the scene. Two very, very good performances. And I got to tell you guys what, I like him in this matchup as well. Let's take a look at the Factory X product, Youssef Zalal. So he is 9-2. I love his nickname too, the Moroccan Devil. Phenomenal nickname. So we take a look here. He did lose some fights earlier on in his career. I feel like those fights don't have quite as much relevance. So he did lose to Jose Mariscal, an 8-3 guy in LFA. That's in early 2019, not a long time ago. And that's what I mean when this guy has grown tremendously and is a very impressive guy that I expect to do a lot of very impressive things in the UFC. Follows it up with a split decision loss to Matt Jones right after that in May of 2019. This guy was taking L's on the regional scene just barely over a year ago. But then you look at how he bounced back, flying knee early in round 1 against Jaime Hernandez. Great win, very spectacular. Comes into the UFC, puts an absolute beat down on Austin Lingo, a phenomenal unanimous decision win as a big underdog there. Pat yourself on the back if you bet Youssef Zalal as a big underdog against Austin Lingo. Lingo screwed up a lot of parlays that night. So then he comes back literally just 5 weeks ago. This guy fought Jordan Griffin, another really solid unanimous decision win. I picked him. I bet him in that spot. I felt like it was a great spot. He gets the win against Jordan Griffin, a very tough out. So let's take a look at the newcomer, Peter Barrett, which I believe this is a replacement fight for Peter Barrett. Slippery Pete, pretty good nickname. So one thing I got to point out is he is 33 years old, coming out of Joe Lozon. Lozon MMA is where he trains. Not a bad camp, but man, a 33-year-old guy making his debut in the UFC. There's usually a reason for that. The UFC, we'd like to see more like a 23-year-old making their debut. But then again, that might be too early too, if you know what I mean. Let's look at what he's done. So last fight, he fought Sang-Hoon Yu, a 5-0 guy on the Contender Series, got the win. Before that, Zach DiSabatino knocked him out in the first round. Zach was a 5-1 guy. Not bad. Cage Titans 44. Before that, though, a loss to Connor Berry. We go back 2 summers ago, almost 2 years ago exactly. Loses an armbar round 1 to Connor Berry, 4-2 guy. Not impressive. Here's something here, though. Previous to that, spring of 2018, a win over Jay Ellis, a 15-75 guy. Yeah, that's right. I said 15-75. Unreal. Gets the rear naked. Jay Ellis, the king of cans. Okay. So previous to that, though, a loss to TJ Brown, but we're getting towards the end of 2017. We're getting a few years back now. And then a loss to Drew Moraes. So looking at this guy's record, looking at the body of work, I mean, he's 3-3 in his last 6 fights, making a UFC debut. Is he one of those guys that's probably getting the call up because there's not quite as many people willing to fight in the current atmosphere? Yeah, I would definitely say so. And like I said, we're going to watch the tape, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, I would be very surprised if I thought Peter Barrett had a good shot to beat Youssef Zalal, as impressive as he's been. Let's take a look at these odds. So Peter Barrett, as it stands right now, is a plus 280 underdog. We have Youssef Zalal as a minus 340, just steamed as could be. Let's see where these odds opened up at. Yeah, okay, so Youssef Zalal even opened as a minus 320. People are still saying, I got meat on the bone. I see value in Youssef in this matchup as a minus 320. We've bet him up to a minus 340, minus 350 at this point. So interesting developments. And as it stands right now, yeah. So Youssef Zalal is the biggest favorite on the card as it stands right now. And I tell you what, probably a pretty good spot, probably a pretty good first leg of a parlay. I also like that it's early in the night. You can really pair him up, do some damage early on. But Youssef Zalal, man, very impressive guy up to this point. Let's keep it rolling. Youssef Zalal probably is going to take steam. I could see Youssef Zalal ending up at minus 400 in this spot, maybe deeper. We usually get that one favorite people just can't stop putting the money on. It almost entices more money to come in as we see the line movement get steeper. People say, oh, man, I like this guy. Other people really like this guy. I want to get in on that. Let me do it now before the line gets steeper. They get money in on it. Then that pushes the line even steeper. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a snowball effect. And I expect Youssef might be snowballing this week. So that takes us up to the third fight of the night. We got Justin James versus Gavin Tucker. So very interesting matchup. Justin James comes in like a man possessed in his last fight against Frank Camacho. Just got in there, literally took out Camacho, knocked him out. I'm going to call that a guy that was knocked out on his feet. You look at the punches Camacho was trying to throw. He was in another universe. He wasn't necessarily unconscious. He wasn't asleep. The referee absolutely did the right thing stopping that fight, though. Camacho was out of that fight. So, Justin James, let's look at what we have here size-wise between these guys. Gavin Tucker, the governor. He's 11-1, fighting out of Canada. Justin James fighting out of Las Vegas. Justin James, 30 years old, about to be 31, not the youngest guy. But I tell you what, Gavin Tucker, surprisingly old at 34 years old. So, this fight is at featherweight. So Justin James came in late notice in that Camacho fight, fought at 155. He's going to be fighting his true weight class here at 145. James has a 1-inch height advantage and 1.5 inches of reach. Let's take a look at the body of work Justin James has put together. Guitar Hero. What a nickname. So, training out of Extreme Couture, 16-4. We talked about the Camacho fight. Incredible performance. Huge underdog. I want to say he was in the plus 250, plus 2, maybe even up to 285, 300 range. Goes in there, gets a 41-second first round KO. Incredible stuff. Previous to that, gets a win against James Warfield Lane, a win against Brandon Noble, Devin Brown, Abdul Sami Wali. Loses to Tommy Aaron, but that's all the way back in 2017. The guy has put together a very good run up to this point. Yeah, he's not fighting the best level of competition, but wow, you got to be impressed, man. Frank Camacho is no joke. Frank Camacho, I'm not going to call him a bum. He's definitely, I would call a lower middle tier UFC talent. A lot of people kind of were banking on him being a really good fighter at one point. It just didn't flesh out, but nonetheless, a debut against Frank Camacho and such a dominant win. Great performance, and it's going to be interesting to see if Justin James can maintain that level, if not elevate his game moving on. So let's look at Gavin Tucker. And there's one thing we got to talk about Gavin Tucker. So he did have a fight last July. Previous to that, man, a 2-year layoff. Now, he looked good in that fight against Sung Woo Choi. Did get the rear naked choke in the 3rd round. Finished the fight. Always good to finish a fight. And it's especially impressive coming off of what was almost a 2-year layoff. 22 months, a big time to be off, especially for a guy as old as he is. He's in the prime of his career, if not the tail end of the prime of his career, being as this is not a huge weight class. He needs to get it done now. Did lose to Rick Glenn, but You look at the win over Sam Sicilia where he looked really good. Sam Sicilia is one of those guys that can look good, can look bad. It's hard to get a read on that performance, really. Went over Chris Goggins, but that's a 7-9 guy at ECC 25. Bo Harris, Lyndon Whitlock. A lot of these guys are, definite regional scene type talent. He's only had a couple fights over what I would consider UFC talent, but he's looked pretty good. The loss to Rick Glenn was bad, but I do believe Rick Glenn had a lot of size and fought a really good fight in that matchup. Let's take a look at these odds. So right now, Gavin Tucker is a -155 favorite over Justin James, +135 underdog. Let's take a look at this opening line, though. So, wow, okay, there we go, folks. There we go. That's what this show is about. So, Gavin Tucker opens at a -220 to Justin James +185. I got to keep it real, man. Gavin Tucker, he's definitely fought the better level of competition. He might be the more well-rounded fighter here, but I gotta say, I think the odds makers messed up this one. I think Justin James is far more skilled than they're giving him credit as a +185 underdog. And the public have punished the bookmakers thus far, betting Justin James to the point that you can get Gavin Tucker now at that -150 area. A lot of movement. I mean, if this continues, these guys could end up close to even. I don't think that will happen. We may even see a rebound where people start snatching up Gavin Tucker at these far better numbers than they opened up at. I'm not totally sure yet, but wow, totally trending Gavin Tucker as it is right now. You may, if you're going to bet Gavin Tucker, you might want to do it soon. I could see a rebound coming. At the same time, Justin James bettors, you've kind of missed the boat. You could have got him +185. Now you're not getting him anywhere near those numbers. Maybe he starts to creep back up. I'm not totally sure. We got tape study to do on this one, but the public definitely believes Justin James is much more in this fight than the odds makers open him up at. Wow, we got a lot of people in the chat, man. Thank you guys for getting in the chat. I don't know if we're going to have time to really dig in and interact as much with the chat as I would like to. We've got a whole card for me to kind of dig through here, and we kind of want to wrap it up in an hour. But, man, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you guys so much. And remember, this show is powered by odds.com. Odds.com, people. Head on over. Check out odds.com. You're with us here right now on Odds HQ. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, man. Odds HQ, dare I say it, the new home of MMA on YouTube. That's right. We're killing it over here, folks. So let's keep it moving on to the next fight. That one's very interesting, man. We've had some good line movement on that fight. Very interesting. And this one could be an interesting one, too. So we got Andrew Sanchez versus Wellington Turman. Andrew Sanchez El Dirte, pretty solid veteran at this point. Lost a couple disappointing fights, but has won some pretty good fights too. And then we got Wellington Turman, the prodigy, young dude. 1-1 thus far in the UFC, but I got to be honest, man, I'm very impressed with this guy. And at 24 years old, I think we're going to see a lot of growth out of this kid. But let's let me get a drink here first. But after that, we'll take a look here at the tail of the tape, so to say. So first things first, Andrew Sanchez, man, 11-5. He is going to be 8 years older. I mean, he's got an 8-year age. The thing is, he's only 32 years old. I don't know if we call it a disadvantage. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like he's aged out of the game. At this point, a 32-year-old, as we may have seen last night, in an even older guy, Derek Brunson, experience matters in this sport. And if you can get a hold of a guy before he's got that experience, we see some savvy veterans, especially some older guys very recently, having a lot of success. You know what I mean? So at the same time, Wellington Turman, a legit, super strong 24-year-old. Yeah, he may actually have the advantage here. Let's take a look at it, though. So both guys are true middleweights. Not much of a height difference here. 1-inch advantage for Andrew Sanchez, which one thing I got to point out, height is not an official statistic. You show up to a UFC fight, they ask you how tall you are. You tell them whatever you'd like. They write it down. We don't actually measure height like we measure reach, like we measure weight. It's very interesting. I've never understood it. So a 76-inch reach for Andrew Sanchez. That's 4 inches of reach that he's going to have over Wellington Turman. Could play into this fight, although Andrew Sanchez, I wouldn't really call much of a distance, circling on the outside striker. Probably not going to play into this fight as much as it could. But who knows? Both guys can grapple. A lot of matchups where both guys can grapple, we end up seeing stand-up fights. So let's get into the resume of Andrew Sanchez here. So Andrew Sanchez, fighting out of TriStar, takes the L to Marvin Vettori. Now, that's not surprising, man. Marvin Vettori, what a monster. I'm very high on Marvin Vettori. Like the guy a lot. Previous to that, gets the win against Marc-Andre Barrio. Marc-Andre, a guy who finally chalked up a W in the UFC after losing 3 fights. A guy who probably is better than he's fought, if I'm keeping it real. But Sanchez gets it done. Gets another win against Marcus Perez, a guy that we were supposed to see fight last night. Unfortunately, it couldn't happen. We lost a lot of fights last night. But gets the win against a very game Marcus Perez. Marcus Perez had only lost 1 fight leading up to that point. So pretty impressive win. Did lose to Ryan James, though. Okay, this is kind of a disappointing loss because Sanchez was absolutely dominating this fight, like dominated from pillar to post. Gasses out. Ryan James ends up getting him in the 3rd round. Sanchez had nothing left. James landed good shots. They had to stop the fight. And then previous to that, lost to Anthony Smith. So Anthony Smith, take what you will. A guy who's performed well, a guy who's performed not so well. It's hard to get a read on Anthony Smith these days. But we're getting all the way back to 2017. Previous to that, went over Trevor Smith, a game guy. Went over Khalil Roundtree. And then previous to that, we're talking Ultimate Fighter. So not a bad resume from Andrew Sanchez. Definitely a very solid vet at this point. So Wellington. What a name. Wellington. So he's training out of Gile Ribeiro team. I'll keep it real with you guys. I'm not super familiar with them. I honestly couldn't name one other fighter that trains out of there, but I like what I see out of this kid, so take it for what you will. So, last fight, the guy beats Marcus Perez. We were just talking about Marcus Perez, a very game guy, a very solid win. Marcus Perez is a tough out, and he got it done. And I agree with it, and I want to say he was a very large underdog as that opened. I want to say you could have got him plus 185 opening, but as the fight progressed, I think they almost ended up even as that fight closed, which just goes to say people could see that this kid has some ability. Fight previous to that, a loss to Carl Roberson. Now, Carl Roberson, man, a very talented guy, another very tough out. This guy's had 2 super tough fights for UFC debuts, especially such a young guy. That was a split decision win. I can see an argument that Wellington actually won that fight, So take from that what you will. Even in the loss, I was very impressed with that performance against Carl Roberson. Before that, everything on the regional scene. Beats Marcio Alexandre Jr., a 16-4 guy. Beats Rafael Atilio, 12-3. Rodrigo Jesus, 9-8. Sergio de Fatima, 13-3. I mean, look at the records of the guys he's fighting on the regional scene. Even as a kid, as a 20-year-old, he was winning some fights and he was getting quite a few finishes. So I'm very impressed. Let's take a look at the odds. This one I really don't know, man. If it were up to me, I'd probably have these guys close to even, but let's take a look at what we got here. Right now we have, okay, Wellington Turman, the younger guy, is a minus 155 favorite here. Andrew Sanchez, a plus 135. Let's take a look at these opening odds. Yeah, so pretty much the same. Wellington opened up minus 160. So we've actually seen a touch, just a touch, come in on Sanchez to move that Wellington line down. I think this is pretty close to fair. You take everything into account. Is Sanchez slowing down? Has he had some bad losses? Yeah, he kind of has. I think that's fair, Wellington being the favorite here. I probably would have liked to see it a little closer to even, but I don't think they're too far off. And if money continues to come in on Sanchez, I got to be honest, I'm leaning Wellington Turman here. To keep an eye on this line, folks. If Wellington Turman gets much, if we get more meat on the bone than what we already have, which I feel like that's a pretty solid play where he's already at, you could really have something here with Turman. Keep an eye on that one, man. You might find a perfect spot. But then again, maybe you're on Sanchez. If you're on Sanchez, I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to pull the trigger. And boy, I'm looking back at the last fight. I was right. Wellington Turman opened as a minus. Okay, check this out. Wellington Turman opened as a plus 180 favor underdog against Marcus Perez. Closed as a minus 165 favorite. The bookmakers did not get that one right. The odds makers really screwed that one up, and they got punished. Whoever cashed those plus 180 Wellington Turmans, a nod of the hat and a wink. Congratulations. All right, that takes us up to the 5th fight of the night. And it's a good one, man. It is a good one. We got Nasrat Haqparast versus Alex Muñoz. Very interesting matchup here. So, Nasrat Haqparast loses his last fight. Man, this guy had some hype. One of our very recently derailed young hype trains. And we caught another one last night in Edmund Shabazian. Oh no. RIP to the parlays. Okay, so Nasrat Haqparast, man, 11-3. He is a German fighting out of Germany, but he is training out of TriStar. So he does have an inch of height. We're not sure on the reach from Muñoz. Muñoz is 6 years older, but let's look at the body of work. What is Nasrat? Nasrat, what have you done for me lately? So like I said, he is 11-3. Lost to Drew Dober. Wow, Drew Dober, big-time underdog. Knocks him out. 1 minute, 10 seconds, round one. Really shocked a lot of people. Blew up many a parlay at the odds he was at. Previous to that, though, impressive win, man. Knocked out Joaquim Silva, a very, very game guy. A guy who was 11-1 at the time. A guy who was out there knocking dudes out. He goes out there and knocks them out. Impressive performance. Previous to that, the win over Thibaut Gouti, 12-4 guy. Thibaut Gouti, tough guy to get a read on. Not impressive at times. Actually looked better in this fight than I felt like he should have. Probably should have opened people's eyes that maybe we were overestimating this guy a little bit. But then another very impressive win previous to that, 2 years ago, summer of 2018, a win over Mark Jacassi. You know, Mark Jacassi, kind of a head case guy, a dude who's got some good wins, some nice KOs, but man, Mark knows how to lose fights. And then previous to that, an L to Marcin Held, you know, which, you know, is interesting. Marcin Held, crazy grappler, a guy that's constantly going for legs, trying to rip up knees. Just kind of a weird fight, and a fight that Marcin controlled. You got to think, though, Nasrat at that time, almost 20 years old, 21 years old, very young. He's grown a lot since then. And then previous to that, we got fights on the local scene. So a mixed bag thus far from Nasrat. And man, I'm just really not sure what to think of this kid yet. I need to see a few more fights in the UFC, I feel like, to get the full picture, you know? Alex Muñoz, 6-0, 30 years old, training out of Team Alpha Male. Man, we just don't see a lot of Team Alpha Male guys anymore. You guys remember back in the day when Team Alpha Male was dominating this sport? How quickly things can change. So, that's okay. That's how I knew this. We'll get to it. So, last fight he had, October of last year, Troy Lamson, 13-2, unanimous decision win, as should be expected. Team Alpha Male guy, Muñoz. We know what we're getting out of a Team Alpha Male guy. Big-time takedowns, big-time wrestling, big-time heavy top game. Alex Muñoz is no different. Win over Nick Newell, a very interesting fighter, but a guy who was 14-1. Say what you will about Nick Newell. I'm not going to get into the details, but he fights with a disability. You got to give the guy credit for getting in there. Let's see. Previous to that, Matthias Ubarajara. Wow, what a name on this guy. Unanimous decision win. Richie Richardson, one-on-one guy, rear naked, and then Jesse Moreno, Angelo Anzulda, two guys very early they took out in the first round. So definitely going to need to watch the tape on Alex Muñoz. Not totally sure what we're getting here. Let's take a look at these odds, though. I'm going to imagine Nasrat's going to have to be the favorite. Nasrat gets a lot of love, and he absolutely is. So we got Nasrat Haqparast minus 250. Alex Muñoz coming back at a plus 210. And I got to be honest, if Muñoz is as heavy as a wrestler as a Team Alpha Male guy should be, yeah, I'm having a little bit of the flashbacks of the Marcin Held fight with Nasrat. Let's look where this opened up. So this opened up Nasrat minus 205. He's taking steam all the way up to that minus 250 range, minus 275. Yeah, so the betting public is confident Nasrat should win this fight. He's definitely fought the better level of competition. I'll be honest, though, pre-tape, I would have lined this fight a lot closer. I really would. Nasrat has lost 2 fights in the UFC in 2 very different ways. This guy might not be who we think he is. Alex Muñoz, again, not a deep body of work, but 30-year-old dude that I bet's pretty strong. It's probably going to have a pretty good ground game. Wow. I do anticipate Nasrat's probably going to end up, he's already headed that way. He's probably going to end up minus 300. If you're going to pull the trigger on the dog, Alex Muñoz, probably best to sit back and wait, watch how the line starts to move. If we see a run on Muñoz, you're probably going to want to jump on. But as it stands right now, man, people are all over Nasrat. And maybe there's a reason for that. You know, maybe when we get into tape study, we'll figure out why. But as it stands right now, I feel like Nasrat probably getting a little bit overvalued coming off of a loss, if I'm being honest. Okay, next fight. Really good fight, man. So we got Tim Means versus Laureano Staropoli. Tim Means, the Dirty Bird, 29-12-1. Man, this guy's been around. This guy's fought a lot of people. But he is 36 years old, man. 36 years old. So he's 6'2". Wow, I didn't realize Laureano was 6'1". Figured Tim Means would have quite a bit of height advantage here. And he's going to have 3.5 inches of reach. But that's really a lot less than he usually does. Laureano Staropoli really has some reach on him. Let's take a look at the resume of Tim Means. So, very disappointing loss against Daniel Rodriguez in his last fight. I think Tim Means was about a minus 300 favorite in that one, going up against the debuting Daniel Rodriguez. Ends up getting absolutely clipped at the end of the first round and finished in the second. Probably was knocked out cleanly, and they let the fight continue. We've been seeing that lately. I'm not sure why. That was only this last February, so not a long time ago. But I guess it's been a while, you know, probably enough time to heal from a KO. Got the win over Thiago Alves, a very faded Thiago Alves late last year. A loss to Nico Price, a fight that he was winning and then got knocked out. Got the win over Ricky Rainey, knocked him out in the first round. A loss to Sergio Moraes, a split decision. That's a disappointing L. A loss to Bilal Muhammad, another split, disappointing L. A win over Alex Garcia, pretty quality win. And then a loss to Alex Oliveira, other cowboy, by rear naked choke. I mean, look at this body of work, what we've seen out of Tim Means. I mean, Sergio Moraes, that's not a guy that I rate highly. You know what I mean? Now, Bilal Muhammad, yeah, really good. Nico Price, very dangerous. And Daniel Rodriguez, an underrated guy. But, I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 L's and 1, 2, 3 wins. He's 3-5 in his last 8. This is not a good look. Are we seeing a fading Tim Means? We appear to be trending that way. It's going to be interesting to see if the odds are starting to take that into account because, I'll be honest, it seems like Tim Means is a favorite in almost every fight. But let's take a look at Laureano here. Now, Laureano, he did lose his last fight, I believe, to, that's right, Muslim Salikov, who I believe was hooked up by the judges in his last fight, but let's not get into that. So previous to that, he beat Thiago Alves. Both guys fought Thiago Alves one fight ago. Weird how stuff like that happens. Both beat him, as they should. Thiago Alves, very washed, and I believe now a bare-knuckle boxer. Let's see here. Beats Hector Aldana, 4-1 guy. Not the greatest fighter. And then before that, we're into Combate Cotas. So only three UFC fights for Laureano, and he's 2-1. But that loss to Muslim Salikov, at this point, I'm willing to rate Muslim probably over Tim Means. So, yeah, a lot of wins, a lot of KOs, even a Kimura, a lot of punches. Did get knocked out early on in his career. That's all the way back in 2013, though. Yeah, man, Laureano, a very dangerous guy. And given the surprising measurables between these guys, I could imagine he will be the favorite. He is. All right, Tim Means no longer opening as the favorite. So, right now, Laureano Staropoli sitting at a minus 140. Tim Means a plus 120. Man, I feel like that's a pretty solid spot. You know, again, pre-tape, I'm going to lean Laureano here. He's just a very deadly striker, and Tim Means is eating a lot of shots and getting knocked out very frequently. This could be a very strong spot. I'm going to look at this opening line here. Oh, my. Okay. So Laureano actually opens as a minus 155 favorite. The public have bet Tim Means up to this point, and that's interesting to me. I'm not sure I can put my finger on why. I mean, the obvious, you know, Tim Means, much savvier vet, does have a little bit of size here. But, man, as deadly as a striker as Laureano's been, as much power as he brings to the table, considering the knockouts Tim Means has been taking, this could be interesting. But I tell you what, man, if you're going to bet Tim Means, you might have missed the boat. You could have got him a plus 135. You know, he's about a plus 110 now. But if you're thinking Laureano, sit back and watch this line move. I got a feeling maybe even after this video, some people might be betting Laureano. I mean, I personally would line him probably more like a minus 185 at this point. So I do see some value on Laureano, but who knows? Maybe there's a reason for it that I'm just not seeing yet. Nonetheless, though, very interesting to me. So let's keep her rolling. We are up to, oh man, this is a good one here. I'm very excited for this one. Wow, 150 people on the live stream, man. I appreciate all of you. Thank you guys for watching, man. Odds HQ, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe, man. We get into everything MMA. And guess what? Other sports are back. Our boy Jimmy the Bag on MLB, horses, NBA. He's got it all, baby. We got a multitude of guys covering NBA, MLB, hockey. We do it all. Odds.com, baby. The new wave. Get with it. Hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that thumbs up. Let YouTube know you enjoy this video. So, here we go. Beneil Darius versus Scott Holtzman. Benny Darius. Could get a little more original with the nickname, couldn't we? Because Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman, now that's a nickname, baby. Keep it spicy. So, let's take a look here. We've got, wow, Beneil, only 31 years old. Guy comes across, he could be older. Only 31 years old, man. Prime of his career against a 36-year-old, 2 months away from being 37, Scott Holtzman, fighting at lightweight. That's right. Almost 37, fighting at lightweight. Ooh, I'm hearing alarms. I'm hearing bells ringing. You guys know what I'm saying? I'm having visions of red flags waving. Let's not count him out just yet, though. So height-wise, we got an inch advantage on Beneil's side, and Beneil does have a 3-inch reach advantage. Let's look at Beneil Darius. So he is 18-4. Super impressive win. Crazy awesome fight. Go back and watch it, folks. Just a phenomenal fight. Knocked out Drakkar Klose in the second round. Great performance. Great performance. Let's see her finishes. Frank Camacho, who we talked about earlier with a rear naked choke, round 1. Takes out Drew Dober with an armbar, round 2. That's a tear, folks. That's 3 phenomenal fights. And he even won his fight before that against Thiago Moises, an up-and-coming guy who won a very impressive fight recently with a unanimous decision back in late 2018. Did get knocked out to Alexander Hernandez. Got knocked out early, 42 seconds into the fight. And honestly, we got quite a bit of hype on Alexander Hernandez based off that win. That's very impressive to knock out Beneil Darius 42 seconds into a fight. And I would bet you guys if they fought 100 times, that would be the 1 in the 100 that probably happened. I think it was a little bit rare. So, previous to that, we got a majority draw to Evan Dunham, but that's, you know, Evan Dunham of 2017, a much different Evan Dunham. And then a loss to Barboza, flying knee KO, early 2017. Previous to that, though, a win over Rashid Magomedov. Rashid Magomedov is good, you guys. That's all the way back in 2016, though, so not quite as important. Look at the recent body of work by my man Beneil Darius. This is pretty impressive stuff for a guy 31 years old coming into the prime of his career. Woo! If you can't tell, I'm liking Beneil Darius in this spot a lot. So, Scott Holtzman, I already ragged on him for being old. 14-3. What has he done lately? Got the win over Jim Miller. I'll tell you what, though, you guys. Jim Miller, which don't get me wrong, Lyme's disease, all sorts of stuff, a very old guy. Jim Miller is not done. Okay, Jim Miller just beat Roosevelt Roberts. Jim Miller is still a scrappy, savvy dude who will win fights. His day's coming, but a win over Jim Miller, you can kind of, I feel like a lot of people kind of discredit. Jim Miller's a very game dude. This is still something that Jim Miller's still a notch on the belt for sure. Previous to that, a win over Dong Hyung Ma, doctor stoppage at the end of the second round. He couldn't continue into the third. He did lose to Nick Lentz, and that's a little bit concerning here. Nick Lentz went out there with a really good game plan, won the fight. He did get a win over Alan Patrick, though. Alan Patrick was 15-1 at the time. Literally got him in mount, finished him with elbows. Pretty impressive stuff, man. Like this, hot sauce is no joke. I mean, you look at his recent body of work, fairly impressive. Got the win over Daryl Horcher. Daryl Horcher, probably not UFC material. Michael McBride, same story. The L to Josh Emmett. Everybody takes that L to Josh Emmett. He's really good. Let's see, a win over Cody Pfister and a loss to Drew Dober, but we're getting all the way back into early 2016. That's over 4 years ago at this point. Yeah, man, so really recently, Scott Holtzman surprisingly well. Honestly, better than I thought. Josh Emmett, Nick Lentz, not the worst L's. You look at those wins, we got some decent names, but I got to tell you guys what, man. Beneil Darius is beyond those guys' levels. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, and even though this is Sunday, even though I have not even watched tape yet, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm picking Beneil Darius to win this fight. I'm going to bet on Beneil Darius to win this fight, regardless of where the odds stand at any point. Beneil Darius, I feel like, will win this fight. Let's take a look at the odds, though. That's what this show's about, baby. Odds on OddsHQ, odds.com. It's the odds whisperer. You never thought you'd get yelled at by a guy named the Odds Whisperer, did you? All right, so there you go. So Beneil Darius opened as a -160. Scott Holtzman +140. Beneil has taken some money. He's up to about a -175. Scott Holtzman at +125. I'm going to tell you guys right now, man, the way I see this going, Beneil Darius, in my estimations, will end up a -200 favorite. Again, this is just leans. These are not official picks, but I feel so good about this fight. I'm comfortable enough taking the jump even pre-tape. I feel like Beneil Darius is going to win this fight. I'm going to pick Beneil Darius to win this fight. I'm going to bet Beneil Darius. This is what this show's about, this situation right here, folks. If you're betting Beneil Darius, you're going to need to get your phone out now. You're going to need to go get in the car. You're going to need to go drive to the casino. The time is now. If you're betting Beneil Darius, get those bets in now. If he ends up any better than where he's at right now before this fight starts, I will be shocked. I do believe we've got an inaccuracy here. I would favor Beneil Darius quite a bit more in this spot. I think we've got a phenomenal value play here if you're willing to take that stab on Beneil Darius like I am. All righty, so there we go. Great fight, man. I can't wait. I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be a good fight. That's going to be a really good fight. Okay, let's move her right along. We've made it to the main card. We've been in the main card. That was the first fight of the main card. That takes us up to Yana Kunitskaya versus Julija Stoliarenko. So, interesting matchup here. Yana Kunitskaya, kind of a mixed bag, lost her last fight, wasn't too impressed. Julija Stoliarenko, armbar phenom. We will get into that. What do we have size-wise? An inch of height for Kunitskaya, but a half inch of reach for Julija. So virtually identical, as my man Mike Goldberg would say. Let's see, 30 years to 27. Both are right in the prime of their careers. Nothing really going on there. Let's get into Yana. Foxy Kunitskaya. So, lost to Aspen Ladd, 33 seconds into the third round. That'll happen. Aspen Ladd's pretty darn good, you guys. I'm sure you already knew that, though. A win over Marion Renault. Pretty decent win. Renault, very old, but still good. You know what? Well, I don't know if I'll say good, but a respected fighter with a respected body of work. So, nonetheless, a quality win. A win over Lena Landsberg. That's not bad. Lena Landsberg, really wishy-washy fighter. Lost to Chris Cyborg, of course. Who doesn't lose to Chris Cyborg that's not named Nunes? And then we're on the Invictus scene. So Raquel Canuto did lose to Tanya Evinger. And then there was a no contest to Tanya, the stepmom Evinger. But we're getting a ways back. So I don't know, man. Mixed bag. I mean, the loss to Cyborg, can't really count that against her. Lost to Aspen. Aspen's a very good prospect. But a win over Lena and a win over Marion Renault. Where do we rate those fighters? Ugh, I don't rate them very high. Yana, I don't know. Is she really that level? I don't know, though, man. I really got to watch a lot more tape on this Julija Stoliarenko. But that's what I'm going to say. We're going to see some very interesting stuff here on her record. So first things first, last fight, Invicta, split decision win over a 5-0 Lisa Versosa. Now, is Lisa Versosa a good fighter? I wish I could tell you guys. I don't know. I haven't watched the tape yet. Maybe she's a phenomenal undefeated prospect, but she was 5-0, and it was apparently a close fight. So it's a fight I'm definitely going to go back and watch. But here's what I want to get at. Here's the real story of this chick. So Mariam Tatunashvili, a 2-3 fighter. That's the problem. We got some real weak records here, but look at this. Armbar win, armbar win, armbar win, armbar win. Yeah, that's right. 4 straight armbars. Now, it doesn't tell us what round in the first one, the first of the 4, but we have 30 seconds into round 1, 19 seconds into round 1, and 20 seconds into round 1. 3 fights in a row. That's right, 3 fights in a row, 1 minute and 9 seconds, 3 armbars combined. This chick's got one game. Take you to the mat and take the arm home. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't just end there. Before that, she did lose a split decision to Leah Letson, a fight I'm definitely going to watch. Not really sure how that fight played out. Did lose to Pani Kinzad, who me and my boys at the Odds Squad, we tried to tip you guys off. Pani Kinzad was going to beat Betch Kohara, and she did, and we cashed. Pani Kinzad's not a bad fighter. She really wasn't as good as she is now then, but nonetheless, she lost to Pani Kinzad. That it was an exhibition fight, though, on the Ultimate Fighter, though, so not an official loss on her record. But, I mean, look at this. We're back to the wins. Look at these W's. Armbar, 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 flying armbar, you know. Does have 1 decision win, but it's just armbars, folks. Like, that's it. It's just armbars, armbars, armbars. This chick is an armbar machine. Is she going to be able to catch the armbar? I don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not rate the takedown defense and submission defense of Yana Kunitskaya very highly, you know. So that takes us up to 1 point. The odds. What do we got? We've got, okay. We got Yana Kunitskaya minus 220 to Julija Stoliarenko's plus 180. I got to be honest. I don't have an opinion on this, but I am surprised. I figured this would be much closer, all things considered. Now, how many times has Kunitskaya been subbed? Not a lot. You know, how many times has she been armbarred? Can't think of any off the top of my head. I suppose we probably should have looked, right? That would kind of be telling in this fight. But, man, the odds maker is very confident. Let's see where this opened up at. Wow, okay, so Yana Kunitskaya opens as a minus 175 favorite. Has now been steamed to a minus 220. The people who have put in the work and watched the tape are apparently very confident that Yana Kunitskaya probably just needs to avoid a first-round armbar, and it's her fight to win. She's taken all the steam. Now, on the other side of the coin, if you're the type of person who's willing to risk that Julija Stoliarenko might be able to get in there and bust off another 30-second armbar, you're getting some really good odds. But I'll be honest, folks, it's probably quite telling, this matchup, the fact that Kunitskaya, who, like I said, I don't think is a super great fighter, has gone from minus 175 to minus 220. The tape's going to tell us why, for sure, on that one. And I'm sure when I further research this, I'm going to go, oh, that's why Kunitskaya is a minus 220 favorite. So, yeah, there we go. Let's keep it moving along here. Boy, Kunitskaya taking the steam. She might end up heavily steam. I mean, next stop minus 250. Beyond that, minus 300. I don't know, man. Maybe Julie has a can crusher. We'll see. All right, this is an interesting one here. Very, very interesting matchup here. And I'll tell you why, because I actually have looked at the odds on this one, and I don't quite agree. So, we got Darren, the Dentist Stewart versus Maki Coconut Bombs Pitolo. That's a nickname that I'm about right there. So, Darren the Dentist, 11-5, 29 years old. Both guys 29 years old. Wow, both nearly identical to the month in age. So, this is a middleweight fight. Pitolo coming up from 170. He's had one fight at 185. looked physically changed, physically different, looked really good. So we got Darren Stewart coming in at 6 foot. He will have 2 inches of height on Maki, and he will have a 1/2 inch of reach. Basically nothing. Let's look at Darren Stewart. Very interesting scenario with Darren Stewart as the pandemic set in. My guy under UFC contract actually headlined a Cage Warriors event over Bartosz Fabinski. For something like that to happen again would just have to be truly world-changing. But then again, that's where we're at in the world today. So, very interesting. This one is a back officially in the UFC for Darren Stewart. He wasn't cut. He just got in a Cage Warriors main event as a UFC fighter. Crazy. So he did lose that fight, man. And honestly, he was a heavy favorite going in. I want to say minus 200 or better. Bartosz Fabinski won every round. Like 30-27. Like easy win for Bartosz Fabinski. Don't get me wrong. He worked hard. Easy might be the wrong word, but as far as going out there and doing what Bartosz needed to do, flawless performance. Repeatedly took Darren Stewart down and laid on top of him. If there's a way to beat Darren Stewart, you take him down, you lay on top of him. These English guys, they ain't got the wrestling. You know what I'm saying? So previous to that, gets a win over Darren Win. I got to keep it real, man. To me, Darren Win, that's I don't want to be too critical right now, but Darren Win is almost a fraud. Okay, I'll put it like that. Gets the split over Darren Win, and again, a split, a close fight. Not the best look. Darren Win is not great. Gets the win over Bevan Lewis. Bevan Lewis, very highly touted dude coming into that fight. I want to say Bevan was the favorite. Darren gets it done. Bevan got exposed. Lost to Edmund Shabazian. Oh, boy. We all love Edmund after Saturday, don't we? Oh, no. What a nightmare. So the split decision loss to Edmund, a fight that Edmund probably won. Looking back now, not as impressive of a performance as it was pre-last night, right? Interesting how later performances can change the scope of how we feel about previous fights, if you know what I mean. And this is absolutely one of those fights. Gets the win over Charles Byrd and a win over Eric Spicely. A couple bums, pardon my French. But yeah, previous to that, the L to Francimar Barroso, L to Carl Roberson, and L to Julian Marquez. Those are all back in 2017. But at the same time, you look at the talent level of those guys. Yeah, man, there is definitely a cutoff. There's a cutoff here for the dentist, okay? If you fall below that certain talent level, he's going to beat you. If you're just above it, he's losing every time. You know, look at the guys he's taking these L's to. It's a very fine line, though. A very fine line. Let's take a look at Coconut Bombs. Maki Pitolo. So like I said, man, 13-5 dude goes out there, and I already called him a bum. Sorry about that, Charles Byrd. But Charles Byrd, yet again, the last fight Maki Pitolo had, goes out there, really just beat down Charles Byrd. Now, this is a tough fight to read on because was it that Charles Byrd is faded and done and terrible? Yeah, probably is part of that. But is it also Maki Pitolo moving up a weight class, looking physically so much better and performing like a different fighter? Yeah, it was part that too, because we look at this L to Callan Potter, a 17-8 guy, an absolutely terrible UFC fighter, Callan Potter. I'm not sure if this guy should be in the UFC, if I'm being totally honest. But he beat Coconut Bombs. Here's the deal, though. That was Coconut Bombs at 170. I've seen Maki Pitolo talking about how the cut to 170 was killing him. He could not perform. The dehydration, the weigh-in, way too much for him. He was killing himself physically. 185, he talked about it after the fight. Physically looks different, physically feels different, and the guy's just performing different. I like this guy so much better at 185. So had the win over Justin Sumter, really dropped the Coconut Bombs in that fight. Crazy body hooks, looked really good. Great win. Went over Chris Cisneros, that was Bellator. Went over Thiago Rella, 59 seconds into the first round. And then did take a couple L's on the regional scene to Cassius Kane, got knocked out by a punch. And then Dakota Cochran, who's famous for all the wrong reasons, got guillotined by him in the second round. An embarrassing bad look for sure. So let's take a look at these odds. I think this should be fairly close, but I'll be honest, man. Like, Darren Stewart has not been impressive, and Maki Pitolo, don't get me wrong, only one fight ago lost to Callum Potter, but at a different weight class for all the reasons I described. We have Darren Stewart as a minus 175 favorite to Maki Pitolo's plus 155. That is surprising. That is surprising. Let's take a look at these opening odds. Wow. Okay, so Darren Stewart opens at minus 150 and has taken that steam. I mean, he's up to a minus 190 at certain books. I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going to have to disagree. You look at stylistically how Maki Pitolo lost that fight to Callum Potter. It wasn't striking. I mean, Darren Stewart's not going to wrestle this guy. I think. Who knows? Maybe he will bust out some good old English wrestling for us, but I would line this fight far closer. I see immense value on Maki Pitolo. And as it stands right now, the numbers just keep getting better. Sit back. If you're willing to take the shot on Maki Pitolo, keep your eye out. If he gets, I feel like we're already looking at a very high value spot at a plus 155 Maki Pitolo here. I think that line's off. I don't necessarily have a problem with Darren Stewart being the favorite, but at minus 175, I don't agree with that at all. Maki Pitolo is being a little bit disrespected in this spot. I feel like you could pull the trigger right now and you're getting a very good value bet on Pitolo. Perhaps sit back. If he gets even more value, at some point you're going to have to pull the trigger, because I do believe there will be a bounce back and money will come in on Pitolo at those numbers. Maybe there's something I'm missing that I'll pick up in the tape study, but man, as it stands right now, I think these guys should be close to even. Truly, I really do. Maybe Darren Stewart minus 135 tops? Wow, very surprising. Very surprising. I would bet Maki Pitolo at a plus 155 right now. I would. I haven't yet. But if I'm getting him at that number, that's very surprising to me. I like him a lot at that spot. Maybe I changed my mind again, folks. These aren't official picks. These aren't official anything. These are just leans. I'm definitely leaning Pitolo at plus 155, though, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay. That takes us up to the co-main event of the evening. So we got Chris Weidman going up against Omari Akhmedov. A very, very interesting matchup here, guys. So Chris Weidman, the All-American. Look at the record here, folks. 4 losses, 1 win in his last 5. Oh, no, Chris Weidman. 36 years old. Oh, no, Chris Weidman. So, 6'2", he's going to have 2 inches of height. He's going to have 5 inches of reach, which if he plays his cards right, really could and should play into this matchup. I mean, the thing we got to talk about is Chris Weidman, former light heavyweight. As laughable as of an experiment as that was, got knocked out by my man Dominic Reyes at minute 43 in round 1. Come on, Chris Weidman. Terrible matchup. And he's back down to middleweight. Short-lived experiment. But we got to talk about the fact that Omari Akhmedov, former welterweight. Now, don't get me wrong, the hugest of welterweights. Are we going to see a big size discrepancy here? Probably not, man. I think they're going to be pretty even. We looked at the tail of the tape. Weidman's going to be a little bit taller, a little bit longer, but not enough size to really turn me off of Akhmedov, if we're being honest here. So, look at what this guy has done. And I was wrong. He isn't 4-1 in his last 5. He is in his last 5. He's 1-5 in his last 6 since dropping the strap to Luke Rockhold. Oh my God, Chris Weidman. He's just fallen off a cliff, boys. He's fallen off a cliff. So the loss to Rockhold all the way back in 2015, loses the belt, follows it up with the flying knee loss to Yoel Romero, follows it up with the knees, getting finished by knees in 2017 to Musasi, follows it up with the arm triangle win over Kelvin Gastelum in a fight that he about got knocked out early in that fight, got literally kind of flashed out for a second, ended up recovering, coming back and choking out the little dude, Kelvin Gastelum. Almost lost that fight. I mean, the guy would probably be retired had he lost that fight. I'm keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? Loses to Ronaldo Jacare Souza in a fight that he was winning up until he got knocked out. Then what's he do? Comes back and gets knocked out by Dominic Reyes. Left cross. No. What are we doing here? Chris, what's going on, man? Is this the end of the road? I don't know, but I tell you what, Omari Akhmedov might not be the guy you want to get in there with to try to get that bounce back win. Let's look at what he's done. And it's looking good. I mean, we got the win over Ian Heinisch, unanimous decision, late 2019. Win over Zach Cummings, a tough guy. Win over Tim Boetsch, a tough guy. Draw to Marvin Vettori. Very impressive. Marvin Vettori, super good. Let's see. Split win over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, a very tough, very powerful dude. Win over Kyle Noak. Not too high on Kyle Noak, but we're getting all the way back to 2016. And then a couple losses. He got finished, but these are fights back at welterweight. And these are fights that happened 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Look at what this dude has done lately. It's very impressive. He's taken out some he hasn't taken him out. He's beaten some very tough guys. He in himself is a very tough guy. Do we have gas tank issues? We might. But this is going to be a 3-round fight against a not very tough guy anymore, Chris Weidman. Boy, I got to tell you what, guys. I lean Omari. I really do. I'm feeling Omari on this one. Could end up changing my mind through the tape study, but let's look at the odds. We got Chris Weidman, the ever so slightly favorite at a -115 to the -105 of Omari Akhmedov. These guys are close enough. You might as well call it a pick 'em. Where did they open? We opened Omari Akhmedov, the -150 favorite. I got to say, I agree with the odds makers on this one. I would have lined this fight exactly there. We've seen the public come in and put money on Chris Weidman. We've got a much better, almost even money number on Omari Akhmedov here. I'm liking what I'm seeing, folks. This is the one. Buckle up, sit back. Chris Weidman has the name value, the name recognition, the casuals, the not so casuals, the more uneducated better. They're going to like that Chris Weidman name. I know that Chris Weidman name. This guy knocked out Anderson Silva. He's awesome. You know what I mean? Omari Akhmedov. Who the fuck is that guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have the appeal to the casuals. I could see Chris Weidman, as he already has. I mean, open plus 130. He's actually the slight favorite now. We're going to sit back. We're going to ride that wave. Chris Weidman, let that money keep coming in, baby. Let that money keep riding in on Weidman. I'm going to take Omari Akhmedov in this spot, no doubt. But I'm going to sit back. It's very real possibility that Omari is going to open as a -150. You might end up being able to get a nice plus number on Omari Akhmedov. I like him quite a bit in this spot. I really do. I'm going to watch the tape. Maybe I change my mind. I doubt it, though, boys. I think we got a good one here. This is the one, though. Don't pull the trigger just yet if you're on Omari. If you're on Weidman, if you think Weidman's going to win, you probably do want to pull the trigger sooner than later. I think Weidman will end up still continuing to take money. I think this trend is going to continue. If you're on Omari, though, sit back. Let's see if we can get some plus money, boys, and really hit these casuals where it counts, if you know what I'm saying. All right. So, awesome, man. We are up to 185 people watching live. Thank you guys so much. Again, if you're new to odds, please hit the subscribe button. Head over to odds.com. We've got so much great content, so many other sharp minds. Truly, we have gathered some of the greatest minds in MMA today on odds.com. You're missing out if you're not catching everything that we're putting out. Truly. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe. Turn on those notifications. We got work to do still this week, boys. My man Clint with the Die Hard MMA podcast tomorrow. Be sure to tune in every Monday. So, here we go, boys. We did it. We've done it. Main event of the evening. We got Derrick Lewis versus Alexey Oleinik. The Black Beast versus the Boa Constrictor. I mean, if you didn't even know MMA, if you didn't even know, I mean, say you just showed up somewhere and you go, hey, man, we got the Black Beast going up against the Boa Constrictor. I don't even know what sport this is I'm in. You know what I mean? That sounds good to me. So, Derrick Lewis, man, 23-7, 2-fight win streak. Was on a 2-fight win streak. Did lose 2 fights previous to that. 35 years old, 6 months. But hey, you know what? 35 years old, baby. That's a young guy in the UFC heavyweight division. You know what I'm saying? Not really, but for real, 35 years old. This guy has years and years ahead of him if he can stay healthy. Alexey Oleinik, we're talking years, baby. 43 years old. Alexey Oleinik, 43 years old. Boy, that's old. But you know what? Also on a 2-fight win streak. Also lost 2 fights previous to that. My man's record, 59-13-1. He's been around the world. He's fought them all. You name it, he's about fought them. Even people you wouldn't expect. Dig into this guy's record. He's fought some crazy people back in the day. So, obvious thing here, 8-year, I'm going to go ahead and call it an advantage in this spot for Derrick Lewis. I mean, 43 years old. I don't know of anybody out there who's like, man, 43 years old. This guy's got a real advantage in this fight being that old. You know what I'm saying? Even at heavyweight. He's old even for a heavyweight. So let's see, 1-inch height advantage for Lewis, and somehow Alexey Oleinik has an inch of reach. I don't know if people realize Alexey Oleinik has an 80-inch reach. Crazy long arms on this guy, which is also why he's been getting so many crazy submissions. Let's get into Derrick Lewis, though. So, Derrick Lewis, what has he done lately? The win over Ilir Latifi, bad move by Ilir. That's about a free win. Win over Blagoy Ivanov, split decision, close fight. Got knocked out by Junior Dos Santos in March of 2019. Lost to Daniel Cormier. That makes sense. But win over Volkov, a fight that he was losing the entire fight before getting the knockout. A win over Francis Ngannou where nothing really happened. Win over Marcin Tybura, knocked him out. And then a loss to Mark Hunt, taking us all the way back to 2017. Man, really not the best looks. I mean, the Volkov was almost an L, seconds away from being an L. The Ngannou wins almost nothing at all. Oh, really, in reality, if they fought again, I'm almost assured he would lose. Tybura, what's Tybura? What's Ivanov? What are Latifi worth? Not much. I mean, Ivanov's probably the best between them, but even then, that's a split decision win. So take from it what you will. Let's look at the boa constrictor, man. So look at the dude holding up some trophies. Probably back in like 1984 when he won his first MMA fight. So super impressive. Hey, listen, super impressive performance over Fabricio Verdun in his last fight. Myself included, a lot of people, we thought Verdun was faded and done after that. Verdun goes in there against the bum Alexander Gustafsson, gets a great win a week ago. Split decision. I thought Oleinik clearly won the fight, though. I mean, it says split, but I think he definitely won. Went over Maurice Green, where he was an underdog. I mean, he's literally cashed 2 times as an underdog. I bet him as a plus 135 underdog against Maurice Green. Tough fight, but a fight that he clearly was winning and ended up finding the finish. Phenomenal bet, if I'm being honest. Previous to that, we have a grappling bout. We can't even count that against Gordon Ryan, which if you don't know who Gordon Ryan is, the dude is a monster. So he lost to Walt Harris, got knocked out very quickly. You know, if you're going to lose to Walt Harris, it's probably going to be in 12 seconds. He's got about 2 minutes of cardio. Lost to Alistair Overeem, 8 knees to the ground and pound. Overeem still pretty legit. Went over Mark Hunt, though. Very dangerous guy. Got the rear naked. Went over Junior Albini. Not a great fighter. A loss to Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is really good. A win over Travis Brown and a win over Victor Pesta. A loss to Daniel Olimzashik, but we're getting all the way back to 2016 at that point. Look at what he's done as of late, though. You know, 2020, which speaking of which, this is going to be this guy's 3rd fight in 2020. Very impressive that he's been this busy. And he's been on an absolute tear. Physically, he looks the best he has in a long time. Like, really, really good. I have a feeling Derrick Lewis is going to be quite a bit overvalued on this betting line. I did look at it earlier this a couple days ago, and I felt that way. I imagine it's going to be the same. Let's take a look, though. Let's back this up. We've got Derrick Lewis minus 235 up to a minus 265, depending on what book you're on, to Alexey Oleinik's plus 195. Oleinik's been cashing as a dog lately. Let's look at this opening line. Yeah, so Derrick Lewis opened minus 200 and is now that minus 250, minus 265, up to that range. Money has come in on Derrick Lewis. I understand it. You know, Derrick Lewis, the far more dangerous guy on the feet. I tell you what, though, man, a 5-round fight, I don't know if either guy's got the cardio to go 5, But if I were to rate the cardio and the work rate, I feel like Alexey Oleinik, the 5 rounds favors Oleinik for sure. Derrick Lewis just does not have a lot of output. I honestly could see a fight where Oleinik, even as the busier guy on the feet, probably not landing the better quality shots, but probably landing far more numbers, putting out quite a bit more output. Now, don't get me wrong, they're heavyweights. I don't expect a lot of output, but this could be a sneaky, sneaky spot right here. Oleinik could be a very, very live dog. The way things are trending right now, Derrick Lewis continues to take steam. Boy, this is a tough one to read. The way things have trended, especially in main events, a fairly heavily favored favorite. God, that's a crazy phrase. A fairly heavily favored favorite like Derrick Lewis in this spot, probably going to end up minus 300, maybe even deeper. Again, we're looking at a spot where Derrick Lewis is going to have the name value over Alexey Oleinik. We could be looking at another one where you sit back. If you're willing to take that underdog shot on Oleinik, sit back. The numbers are probably going to get better. I would imagine Derrick Lewis continues to take steam up to a minus 300, maybe even a minus 350 range. Hard for me to get a read. I would imagine there's going to be people willing to pull the trigger on Oleinik here. I just think if Oleinik fights a really good game plan, he's going to be able to drag Derrick into those deeper waters where Derrick's just not going to have the output. It's going to be too tired to deal with anything, especially if Oleinik can take this fight to the ground. Now, you always have to deal with the standard Derrick Lewis. I mean, he's very dangerous on the feet, hits very hard. Maybe we do have a Walt Harris and Alistair Overeem scenario where Derrick Lewis comes out very hot and takes out Oleinik early on. I'm imagining that's what a lot of people are banking on that are putting the money on Lewis and willing to, pay the wood, pay the chalk. Tough fight to call. I definitely need to watch some tape. Derrick Lewis is not a guy who's been submitted a lot. When he does get taken down, he does have a fairly decent get-up game. He's not the most technical and proficient guy, but does post, does get up. I do think early on he should be able to get up if Aleksei can take him down. But is he going to be able to continue to get up into that 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round? I'm not so sure, man. This could be interesting. I'm not going to make a pick here, but I will say this. I think there's some value on Oleinik here. I think the old man might be getting disrespected with the way this line currently stands. We see a lot of old guys looking physically very good during this modern era that we're in. We see a lot of old guys performing very well, having throwback performances. I'm not going to elaborate on what might be going on, but things might be going on, and I'll leave it at that. So, we've done it, folks. That is it. We've come across the finish line. The first odds whisperer in the can. It's done. We ran a little over time. I tried to get it done in an hour. We're going to get it done in an hour 15. I hope you stuck around. We got 185 people in here. Thank you guys for watching, man. Hit that subscribe. Hit that thumbs up. And once you're done doing that, head over to odds.com. And then once you're done doing that, head over to Just Bleed MMA, my YouTube channel. We get in a lot of live streams just like this. We get a lot of very, very sharp minds in the comments who bring up some very good points. We're always trying to find these spots. We love making money on UFC and MMA. We did it, folks. Be sure to tune in this week, guys. We've got a whole slate. We got a lot of good fights. We got a lot of videos coming up. Like I said, Die Hard MMA podcast on Monday. We've got the new Contender Series live streams that we're doing on Tuesday. As always, after the weigh-ins on Friday, overs and unders with Clint. We've got you guys covered from every freaking angle, you guys. Thank you guys for watching. What a rush. Just Bleed MMA, baby. I am out of here. I will see you guys soon. Tune in. We got big things on the way, baby. Thank you guys for watching.